Welcome back, everybody, to yet another episode here on the Oshay Vlog Cast Channel. I am your host, Oshay Duke Jackson, and of course, we are in doubleheader right now. I'm with a very, very esteemed guest. Okay, so I would keep my curse words to a very minimum today. I'm with the great esteemed Dr. Kenyon Meadows, MD, radiation oncologist, but we're not talking about medicine today. What we're going to do is we're going to have a very good presentation with regards to this demographic of African American men or Black men that I deal with here on how you can invest in private real estate funds. So without further ado, to the good doc. What's going on with you, doctor?
What's going on with you, man? I appreciate you sharing the platform once again, sharing your audience, and let me bring some good information. So yeah, props to you, man. And thanks for everybody for taking the time out of their busy evening to come and hang out with us for a little bit.
All right. So brothers, okay, let me go ahead and do this. So we're going to go into, let me know when you want me to put the whole situation on you, or
sure.
Do you want to do it right now, or do you want to kind of wait and kind of go into some things and then go and do it that
way? Well, first off, as just a little bit more introduction, because what is this about, man? This is Doc talking about real estate funds. So, yes, as Oshay mentioned, I'm a full-time practicing oncologist, but one of my passions and side hustles is investing. And I do all different types of investing, typical stock market stuff. That's maybe about 20%. And the other 80% is alternative investments. And that ranges from flipping houses, owning rental property, doing creative lending to people, and also investing in funds. Okay. And I thought this was a timely topic because, as I'm sure most of the people on the call here know, the whole Jay Morrison, the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, that's something that's on a lot of people's minds. I certainly have been following that. I am an investor in it, just for full transparency. And for me, this is like, going into Jay Morrison's fund is like the 10th or 11th fund I've ever invested in. So it was not a big deal for me. And I just wanted to give people a flavor of, what does it mean to invest in a real estate fund, in general. Okay. So that's what this is about. Wrote a book last year called Alternative Financial Medicine. Hopefully you have a link down below where we talk about all this kind of stuff. And yeah, we're trying something a little different. We're going to do the PowerPoint thing, and we can get into it, man.
Okay, let me do this for those brothers, man. Like, again, thank you, brothers. Yesterday, last time that we came on a few weeks ago, a lot of you brothers went and supported and bought the good doctor's book.
Yes, I really appreciate that.
How many books did these brothers buy?
Actually, I think off that session when it was all said, and it was about 60 to 70. We had like maybe a few hundred on, so that's not bad, man. I appreciate the love. A self-published book, man. You got to hustle that to get some sales. So yeah.
All right. So they say that Black men don't read. You brothers is reading, man. So listen. Okay. All right. So go into the description, man, and buy the good doctor's book. Amazon.com, alternative financial medicine, high yield investing in a low yield world. Okay, I bought the book. All right, so it's only $9.95 if you're doing the Kindle. Okay, paperback is $14.85. I know you got it. You've been at the strip club all night, so I know you got it. Okay, let me go ahead here and put
let me do the screen share.
Yeah. Let me go ahead. I got this. I got it on you now. They can only see you.
Okay, let me see here. My entire screen, I think, is what I want to do. And okay. Are we seeing what we need to see?
All right, let me go ahead and look here.
Can people in the chat kind of comment?
Yes. Okay. Yes, we can definitely see. It looks nice too. Look at that pretty house.
Okay. Right. So yeah. So this presentation is called Passive Income Investing in Mortgage Notes, and everything I want to talk about is encompassed in the title there. I'm a big believer in investing and getting passive income. I mean, we all know about going out there working for money, and we all do it at some point. But I'm a big believer in encouraging people to either have a side business or some side investments that generate some income. We all know about saving up for retirement and the nest egg and all that down the road. But it's also nice to have some current bread coming in right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, this is a private real estate fund. So again, it's sort of similar to something like a Tulsa real estate kind of deal, in that this is people pooling their money together to invest in real estate. And this is a little bit of a different thing in that, when they're not buying houses or apartment buildings, they're actually buying mortgages. Okay. And we'll talk about that. So I always want to give a big disclaimer. Okay. Anytime we talk about investment stuff, I am not an investment professional. I'm an enthusiast. Okay. I'm a practitioner. I do this stuff, but I'm not giving out advice, legal, tax, business, or otherwise. This is informational. If you decide to do some of this stuff, do your own due diligence. And also, very importantly, I mentioned a couple of specific companies that I invest with. I don't get any kind of affiliate or referral or anything like that. I just been with them for a few years, and I can just attest to my experience there. But I'm not getting paid to plug them, and that's very important. Anytime you get any kind of investment advice, you always want to know if the person talking to you is a salesman or not. And I'm not in this instance here. I do want you to buy my book though. All right. So taking a big picture look at things, right? The cash flow quadrant. If any of you guys have not read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's another book I would encourage you all to buy, because it's a good mindset book to get you thinking about how you relate to money in terms of how you get money. Okay. And he divided it into these 4 quadrants here. The top left is the employee, which is, all of us have been at some point. I still am. And the thing about that is you strictly trading time for dollars. Okay. There's no leverage to it. You don't show up and put the time in, no bread. Okay. And then the next step up is the S, or the self-employed person, the small business person, the solopreneur. You're your own boss per se, but at the same token, it's still one of those situations where you got to show up and make the bread. There's no leverage there, So and a lot of times it's better than being an employee, but at the same token, the job kind of owns you. You could probably relate to that, Oshay. You kind of running a well, you're not exactly a one-man shop, but you do an awful lot of the heavy lifting with the manosphere.
Lord.
You know what I mean? So, and also on right next to that, in terms of how you get paid, that's W-2 income, 1099 income. And besides, having to work for it or trade time for it, it's not the most tax advantaged thing in the world. Okay. And then going over to the other half of the equation, that the business owner, where you're actually leveraging people to help you make money. Okay. And then you have the potential to make a lot more wealth as you kind of recreate yourself or use other people's labor to get the job done. Okay. And then at the bottom right is what we're focusing on right now, is the investor, where you got money out there working for you. Okay. So again, it kind of removes you out of the equation in terms of you having to be there and put in work to do it. And on that side of the equation, you get things called distributions, dividends, rent, that kind of stuff. And the beautiful thing about it is you have a lot more chance to kind of manipulate those numbers to get it taxed less. Okay. So I'm always encouraging people to, yes, invest in a business, be an investor in somebody else's business, and try to get money where it's not directly dependent on your labor. Okay. Now, to talk specifically about this mortgage note thing. Well, in the mortgage world, and in this specific mortgage investing world, they call things notes. And that's just basically a promise to pay a loan. Okay. So anything can be a note. You write me an IOU, that's a note. The IOU for your house to the bank, we call it a mortgage, but in a general set of things, it's just a note. Okay. A promise to repay under a certain amount of time and specific conditions. Okay. Now here's some other definitions. Okay. What's a performing note? That's what the bankers talk about when somebody's paying on their mortgage on a regular basis. It's performing. Every first of the month, you mail that mortgage check off. Cool. You knock off a little bit of principal. You take a lot of its interest. Cool. Okay. A reperforming note is somebody that maybe had some temporary trouble making payments. They stop paying and then they come back and start paying regularly again. And then a non-performing note is basically what we would call somebody being in default or a foreclosure. You know, they're more than 90 days late and they don't have any prospects of starting to pay on that again. And it's this non-performing note that is the focus of this presentation. Okay. So when we went through the foreclosure crisis in 2008 and everything kind of melted down, banks were on the hook for a ton of non-performing notes. Okay. And what do they do with them? Well, a lot of times the banks would try to maybe do work with the homeowner and that kind of stuff. But you got to realize banks are not set up to do that on any big scale. Most banks don't have a lot of employees. And for the number of people they make loans to, it's just not financially in their best interest to try to sit down with individual homeowners and figure out, man, how can we work out a new payment plan and all this kind of stuff? So what they do is they actually sell off huge pools of these bad notes to hedge funds, okay? And the hedge funds have the manpower and the expertise to actually, in some cases, work with the borrower and try to come up with a new payment plan, or they may go ahead and foreclose and take the house and then sell it to somebody else, okay? But the thing is, if you've got a big chunk of money, okay, like millions and millions of dollars, the banks will sell you a big pool of these bad mortgages at sometimes 50, 60, 70% off, okay? So the hedge fund now has a bunch of obligations and mortgages that if they can get the people to pay, 30%, 40% of what's owed, they make a ton of money, okay? And there are ways for you as a retail investor where you can participate in these hedge funds, okay? So any questions thus far, Oshay, from the crowd or anything? I can't see them. I'm just seeing my screen here. So
No, I don't have any questions so far. I think that it's pretty self-explanatory. Let me just do this real quick. There's some brothers that have donated. Wake the hell up. Shout out to Oshay and the guests. Informative video as business. You see the rewards in due time. Great content as always, Doc. Thank you so much. Kayla, financial independence, retire early. So thank you, brothers. You're enjoying the show so far. Get the likes up. Let's continue. Go on, Doc.
Okay, good. So now this is a kind of a busy graph, but the main thing I want you to see is basically the percentage of foreclosures that third-party people are taking. And that's really this red line here, okay? And you can see stretching back into the mortgage crisis and now even to 2010, there's been a steady number of foreclosures that banks have where they're basically saying, look, we don't want to deal with this. We're going to give this off to some other third party to deal with. And that is these funds, okay? So there are a lot of them out there, and I'm just showing this to just emphasize the fact that this is not like a niche-like thing. This is a common way for banks to deal with bad loans, okay? So this flow chart here is, if we pay attention to kind of the orange thing here where it says non-performing, once the hedge fund has the non-performing note, there are basically three main exits for it. They can do a loan modification and get that person paying again, okay? Which I think benefits everybody because the person gets to stay in the house, the hedge fund gets a performing asset, the investors get a return, okay? They could, of course, foreclose on the house if the borrower is they can't even make the new lower payments. And then they could also do what we call a short sale and basically flip it to somebody, maybe like a house flipper, somebody who's looking to buy a cheap house that maybe nobody's even lived in for a while. Because a lot of times when people stop paying on their mortgage, sometimes they'll abandon the house and whatnot. And once that happens, the chance of them, going back and starting to repay on it and moving back in is pretty low. So sometimes these houses can get into pretty bad repair. And so sometimes the best thing is to just flip it to somebody who will who will renovate it, basically. Okay, but you still the hedge fund is still going to sell that at a profit. You know, all these exits for them are profitable. Okay, so I want to mention one particular fund here that I've been involved in for close to 3 years now. They're out of Chicago, and they're called America Homeowner Preservation. And the cool thing about this fund, and the reason that I bring it here, is because they have a mission to try to get regular people to participate in their hedge fund. A lot of times, the minimum investment for somebody to get into these things might be $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. So, as a general rule, these kind of specialty investments are kind of reserved for folks that have a lot of bread. Okay, but these guys, and they're unique here, and the reason I want to share it with the audience, because anybody can participate in here. You can start investing with these guys for as little as $100, and they have a special mission where they take extra time to really try to get the homeowner to get back into their house. I happen to know the head of the company and everything, and he definitely wants to make money, but he's trying to be kind of a counterbalance to all of the Black people got a disproportionate share of shitty mortgages back in the financial crisis and mortgage crisis, and some people are still dealing with that. So if this guy buys your mortgage, he's going to try to do everything he can to get it reperforming. So this is some highlights from an article that from 2006, and to quickly hit the highlights here. This is a woman who had a $142,000 mortgage at 8%, and she was paying basically $1,000 a month. She fell behind, went into foreclosure. American Homeowner Preservation bought it, right? They dropped the balance of the mortgage to $77,000 and gave her a 1% interest rate for like 20 years or something like that. And now her monthly payment is $250. Okay. Now you might be saying like, well, how the hell could they do that? Well, the issue is they probably bought that $142,000 mortgage for probably $40,000, right? So if this woman winds up making good and paying this $77,000 over the years, it's a big profit for the hedge fund, and it's a nice profit for investors like you and I, because the hedge fund wants our money so that they can go out and buy more mortgages. Okay. So that's how that works. So this woman stays in her house, we make maybe 10 or 12% on our money. The hedge fund's going to make 30, 40%. Okay. I mean, let's keep it real. These guys go for big profitable investments, but nonetheless, the main thing is if they buy it cheap enough from the bank, it can all work out. And the bank really loses per se, but they're just going to write that off and just, get more money from the Federal Reserve and just start it off again.
Right.
You know what I mean? So who loses? You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, and this is, I like to show receipts, right? And so this is an example of like this particular fund I'm in with them. They pay 12% per year. Okay. So on a $25,000 investment, that's, $250 a month, that just kind of comes in passively. Okay. And this is what I'm trying to get people to start to experience, right? Because I know not many people on this call may not have $25,000, but if you got 200, if you got 500 or something like that, you can put it in this fund and start seeing some money come in immediately. You know what I mean? And that's kind of really my mission, because for me, having extra sources of income, it's a security blanket. You know what I mean? It's an investment thing. And I just think that it's a tremendous way to diversify things. Okay. So what's the advantages? Now some people ask me, man, could I buy an individual note, non-performing note from a bank myself? And the answer is no. The bank's not going to sell you a bad mortgage individually. All right. So you pretty much, as an individual, unless you are independently wealthy, you got to go into a fund. And you want to go into a fund because the dirty work is contacting the homeowner, finding out what their financial status is, and working out a new payment plan. That's
Mhm.
hard. Okay. And the hedge funds have the expertise to do that. And this sometimes takes weeks to months to actually work out. But again, if you buy 1,000 mortgages off the bank, you might only need to get about 20% of them performing again to have a really profitable investment. The hedge funds know the vast majority of people, they're tapped out. There's no way to get it performing again, and you just kind of write that off. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So the profit potential is so big, you only need to get a certain percentage of them going. So being in a fund like this is passive, is diversified. You don't have to find the deals, you don't have to negotiate, and you can maintain your privacy and anonymity, right?
Okay.
And to just draw parallels with the Tulsa fund, right, with what Jay Morrison's trying to do. And I don't know if he's going to execute on it. I pray he does. The thing that's fundamentally different about his thing, though, is, again, it's passive and all that, and we're giving him money, and hopefully he can go out and buy good income producing property, but the principle's kind of all the same. You know what I mean? Okay.
Let me just.
Now, go ahead,
Sorry, I was going to ask you a question real quick, because you said that in a hedge fund, 20% of these homes that they would buy from the mortgages, for the person to receive a profit, that 20% of them need to be performing. Is that right?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like this.
Right. So yes, exactly. Because you got to remember, the bank, even for these big hedge funds, the bank is not going to go and cherry pick through their pile of bad mortgages and just give you the good stuff. They're like, look, take all of this off of our hands. So there's foreclosed houses, man, where people haven't lived in them for years, right? And they're in very bad repair, and practically speaking, some of them aren't really even salvageable, right? Well, you got to take some of them too, but you also going to get some good houses in there where the homeowner's still living in it. Maybe they're kind of squatting in it or whatever, but they're still living in it, taking care of it. And the bank will let you buy that mortgage off of them for 20 cents on the dollar. And you can go back and take that deal to the homeowner and get them repaying again. So there's lots of good deals in there too, but it's a lot of shitty ones too.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me just do something real quick. Let me shout out to King Nick. I became a huge fan of Glenn Cameron after you first interviewed him, Oshay. Now I'll definitely check out Kenyon Meadows content. Well, thank you so much, brother, for that donation. Go ahead and continue to go ahead on with the presentation.
Absolutely. Now we're gonna get a little. I'll warn the crowd. We're gonna get a little heavy with the numbers here on this next slide, but I just ask if you can kind of follow with me, because when you see the actual numbers on a real deal, and this is from one of the funds, this is what gave me the confidence to invest, because I said, look, if they're willing to pay me 12%, okay, which is a nice return, like how much are they making, right? And this example here kind of shows it, and this is an actual real deal, okay? So let's start here at the top. So this was a house that the fair market value of it was $120,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
The balance that was remaining on the mortgage was $114,000, right? So this person had managed to knock down $6,000 off of the principal, right? But then they basically went into they had financial troubles, okay? Basically, okay. Now the next thing, the note purchase price, right? Actually, let's go down the middle of the slide here. Okay. The unpaid principal balance, right, was $53,000. Okay. So that's how much money was owed on and actually this is actually a second mortgage on this house. This is a second mortgage.
Oh,
okay. That was a second. So they went into default with $53,000 into foreclosure. Okay. Now we're going to go back up to where it says note purchase price. This is how much the hedge fund paid the bank for that $53,000 note. They paid them $10,850, which is about 20% of the balance of that note, right? So you see, they got an 80% discount, okay, off of what was owed, right? Mm-hmm. So after they did a little collection and filing fees, the total amount that they've got invested in the deal is basically $12,000 there, $11,900, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, what they did with the homeowner is they went to the homeowner and says, look, we will give you a new, okay, number one, they said, look, we'll give you a sweetheart deal on a new 30-year mortgage at 3%, and your monthly payment will be $400. We'll do that if you go ahead and settle your back payments and all that kind of stuff for $6,000 right now. Now, you thinking, man, if this person was having problems paying on their mortgage, where the hell did they come up with $6,000? Well, you'd be surprised. Like when these hedge funds make these sweetheart offers to people all of a sudden sometimes can come up with the money. And sometimes it's friends and family. Sometimes they raid their 401k and all that kind of stuff and do it. But the bottom line is they paid them the $6,000. Okay. And then on the loan, right, they're going to be paying $400 a month going forward on this new 30-year loan, right?
Okay.
So look at the return on investment for the hedge fund in that year, right? They put in, they got back $11,000 in year one, and that's the $6,000 that they corrected for the arrears, and then the $400 a month times 12 months, right?
Right.
So they've recouped 94% of the money that they put into this loan right from the get-go, and they've got this new loan that's going to pay them, $400 a month for years and years and years, and they almost have no money in the deal anymore, right?
Right.
So their return on investment was like 100% in year one.
Yeah.
So they're happy to pay me 12%. You know what I mean? Because they're making crazy money.
Yeah.
And so you can see how this works. Okay. And there's two funds that I want to mention. Okay. And these are both in my book. And by the way, there are additional examples like that in the book. So in case that was kind of like, you need to go back and look at it. It's in there. There's this one fund called PPR and this other one called American Homeowner Preservation. Now the PPR fund, I mention them because I've been with them for a number of years and I can kind of vouch for them. But they're for accredited investors. Okay. And basically an accredited investor is basically somebody that is wealthy, basically, over $200,000 a year of income or over $1 million of net worth. So you have to have that to meet that to invest with them. But the American Homeowner Preservation offers the exact same thing in essence, and it only is $100 to invest, and you certainly don't have to be accredited with them. Now, anytime you get a nice return on your money, 10%, 12%, that's a nice return. I mean, compared to putting your money in the bank, right? And that even rivals, a stock market return, which is kind of in that 8 to 12% range long term. Anytime somebody's going to give you that as kind of a preferred thing, you're going to give up some liquidity, right? So, on the one, you got to lock it up for 3 years. And on the other one, you got to lock it up for 5 years. And that's a common thing. And so, again, to tie that in with like the Tulsa fund, right? How you got to leave your money in there for a little bit. That's kind of how these private funds work. So you're always going to sacrifice some liquidity for a return, Yeah. And real quick, another plug, I really appreciated the love last time as far as the book went. It's very well reviewed. I'd encourage you guys to go to Amazon. I not only talk about this, but I talk about real estate crowdfunding. I talk about small business lending. I talk about peer-to-peer lending, and I talk about rental property. Basically, there's kind of something in there for everybody. So if you got $100 to invest, or you got 100,000 to invest, and you're looking to put it to work where it's going to bring you some monthly cash flow, it's in there. Okay. And with that, we'll take some questions. And if anybody wants to email me, that's my personal email as well. And that will be the presentation.
Okay, let me kind of do that. And guys, let me just take this little bit of an intermission. So get the likes up on the video. Thank you. I have 146 people watching. Okay, I guess it wasn't as many as the last time we did a show.
Well, you
But
kind of,
we'll take what we
I
got.
think you advertised it a little bit beforehand last time. You know,
Yeah,
I saw
yeah,
it on my
yeah.
timeline. Yeah,
Yeah, I saw it
absolutely.
on the timeline. But
Hmm.
so I thought because you typically if you have one show leading into the other, the people they come back. But let me just
Hey,
do this real quick.
yeah.
So let's talk about the initial investment because what people are gonna want to know is okay. What should I be looking to? Let's say if you have an investment fund, I start off with let's say $10,000. Okay, initial investment. Yeah. What should I be looking if everything's going good in one of these hedge funds, as you say?
Hmm.
What would I be looking back per month and getting as far as a
Well, I actually like the 12. I like things that are around 12% annually. The math is pretty easy. So you're getting back 1% a month. So like on 10,000, that would be like 100 a month. Coming in every month, like
Okay.
clockwork. Okay, so that's kind of the minimum I shoot for investing. Of course, I'll do some other things that are a little lesser than that are even safer, but that's what I want. And I think that's kind of the minimum you should get for being in a fund like this. And again, to tie it into Tulsa real estate, right? Jay Morrison's offering like 8% as a preferred return, but also giving you half of the profits of at the end of the year. Having been in a number of these funds before, that generally winds up working out to like in that 11 to 15% range when it's all said and done. So hopefully he can do that. So I think that's kind of the minimum kind of return you want if you're going to be in a private fund like this. There are certainly some that go higher. There's some that can flirt with 20%, which is a really nice return.
Let me kind of ask you about this Jay Morrison's fund because there's people that have been kind of critical about it, and
Yeah.
I don't really understand it as much as like somebody like you. But what have you heard about the criticisms of I know that you've invested in it. I mean, I knew that before you mentioned. I didn't want to mention it, but you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But what is it? What is it that What are some of the issues that you see that a lot of people may have with investing in the fund initially, and what was it about the fund that enticed you to invest in it?
Well, number one, registering with the SEC is a big deal, right? Um, so that was a big comfort step for me because one of the things you got to realize now, of course, the way he marketed the fund and everything, where it's kind of a personality driven thing and it's him, and I think that kind of turns some people off. One thing you got to realize when you bother to register something with the SEC, it's not only about Jay Morrison, right? You got to have a compliance officer person. That
Mhm.
person's got to sign off that they're being compliant or they risk fines. You got to have an auditor or an accountant that's got to sign off on things or they risk getting
Mhm.
fined.
Mhm.
So in actuality, there's a lot more shared responsibility and penalties if people don't do right when you register with the SEC. And I
Mhm.
think because all we see is him, we kind of get a little nervous with kind of the hip hop flair and everything, but that's a serious thing. And to do that, it's a serious expense too. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars just to do the paperwork. So that made me comfortable to do it because I know that it's a lot on the line for him if he and it gives investors, it gives us legal options if we think he hasn't done something right. We have a regulatory body to go to. So that made me feel comfortable about it. Honestly, do I wish, when you go see like your doctor, your accountant, your investment professional,
Mhm.
I think black, white, or whatever, we kind of want maybe a little bit more of a button down approach and maybe a little less of the flair and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I, that kind of turned me off a little bit about it, but nonetheless, I admit to the whole historical thing. It's a black crowd fund kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and but ultimately, the amount that I invested for me was pretty darn modest. So if he turns out to be a fraud, which I don't think he will, I think the bigger risk is maybe they can't execute on what they say they're going to do. I think that would be the bigger risk, but it's a small position. And I honestly say with everything, that I invest, you read in my book or whatever, if it's not something you directly control and own, I mean, it should just be a small portion, in each individual thing. So I like to have multiple things, so I'm well diversified. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me talk about, so for you, what do you find more, because I know you do have your own rental properties and things like that you operated in your portfolio. What do you find to be better financially? These sort of passive income things where you're doing the funds and the funds work with certain things, are just pretty much doing the whole entire deal top to bottom for
Yeah.
properties, whether you're recouping
Well,
them or releasing them.
yeah.
What works out better for you?
Well, without sharing the raw numbers, you saw the one email on the house flip thing, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of money. Yeah.
So that was a relationship that I cultivated with a house flipper through my network and everything, and supplying a good house flipper the money to flip the house and getting a cut of the profit. I mean, in terms of just raw returns, I mean, that's where things can actually, flirt with 30-40% kind of deal, which, which for me is very attractive. So financing house flips with people that know how to do it is probably the best bang for the buck thing that I do, to be honest with you. But that has a little bit more risk though too. But when it works, it's nice.
Let me talk about the knowledge. I don't know anything about. I mean, I watched the Home Gardening Network when I was still in
Mm-hmm.
California, and I saw those people who were
Yeah.
doing certain things. It was pretty
Yeah.
interesting. But as far as to do this sort of thing where you're doing the private real estate funds, it doesn't seem like it requires a whole lot of thinking. You just here you have the money and then you give it to
It's a
people who knows what they're
yeah.
doing, right?
Yeah, it's a due diligence thing, right? So before I invested, right, I bothered to learn, how does this work? I got on the phone with people, the head of the funds. I talked to them. I said, look, give me 5 or 6 people that already invest with you. I called them up. So it's a lot of work on the front end, and then you take the plunge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I started off slow, right? Like I didn't immediately give a big chunk. I started off with maybe like a third of the amount that I was going to do and just sort of see how it went. You know what I mean? And
Right.
kind of built my position over time. But yeah, it's a lot of due diligence kind of stuff. Okay.
Let me also, if I can ask you this, in comparison to, like you said, you talked about the person in your network that were able to help you, flipping houses. What is the learning curve? That, I mean, as for you yourself, I mean, obviously you're a smart guy, you're a physician, but what was the learning curve that it took you to even get into this industry and stuff like that? Obviously, it's more risk, but
Yeah.
the greater learning curve and all of this stuff,
Yeah.
right?
And I think as academics, who are used to studying, I probably overstudied things and overthought things.
Okay.
But that's me. I'm gonna try to learn your industry about as good as you can through an intense time period of study. You know what I mean? It probably didn't take all that, but it took me months to get comfortable. You know what I mean? It really did. And so there's kind of no shortcut to it. So, for instance, the book, right? I mean, that's a condensation of about a good 4 years of pretty intense learning, calling folks, going to real estate investor association meetings where I never would go to that kind of thing beforehand. Meeting up with people on a Saturday to go see, like, okay, this is how a house flip looks at the beginning. Here's what we're going to do to it and how it's going to look at the end, and just sort of just walking it with the dude who's going to do the rehab, just so I could kind of see it. You know what I mean? So giving up some time, man, going to some mastermind meetings. And I got to tell you, man, a mastermind group is a powerful, powerful thing where, that Hamilton song, you want to be in the room where it happens. Well, a mastermind group is where people, when it comes to investing anyway, everybody's got the same objective. Everybody's kind of been screened already to make sure they either got knowledge, they got money, they got expertise. and you kind of all get together and tackle a project. You know what I mean? Attending some mastermind groups. So it's a lot to it, man. But the rewards are pretty significant because for me, I want to replace my physician income. You know what I mean? That's retirement for me. And I don't want to necessarily wait till I'm 60 some to retire. So that's kind of my why for doing it. And the why for writing the book is, hey, I feel like I've got some expertise and some people could benefit from it. So that's why I bother to reach out to folks like you and try to bring something good to the audience there.
Okay. Let me ask you this. As far as one person said, I mean, I don't know if I want to read that over again if I understand it, but people might say, well, listen, doc, the $100, if I put $10,000, I'm getting $100 a month.
Mm-hmm.
How long is this $100 a month going to be accruing for? What's the time expiration? Is the expiration of the loan? Is that when it's going to expire?
No, these funds, they have dates, end dates to them, right? So the one was 3 years and the one was 5 years. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and then the one, you're going to take that money, it just comes into your account, and then the other one, you actually can reinvest that money, and which is what I've chosen to do to kind of get that compounding effect. And so, but these are time limited things, and you want that, right? You eventually want to get your capital back, so you can do other stuff with it. But yeah.
So okay, let's say this. So if I invest $10,000 in, it's okay. If it's a 5-year expiration date, if it's a 12% loan or 12%, then I don't know. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Maybe I'm confused. Will it not make sense? Because if it's an expiration of like 5 years, I'm putting up $10,000.
Yeah, but you're getting an investment or kind of an interest only payment kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So like in that example where I show with the $250 coming in every month, right? Yeah. So you put your 25,000 in year one or whatever. Mm-hmm. You collect your $250 a month for 3 years or whatever, however much that adds up to be, and then at the end you get that 25 grand chunk back, but you've been collecting that interest the whole time. Yeah, so those are interest only kind of things. Yeah.
Okay. So you do get your okay. That does seem quite interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Clarify that. Maybe somebody else had that whole idea thought too. Okay. So guys, all right, do that. Okay. So we have 183 people watching. Do me a favor, guys, get the videos up, likes up. I know, the good doctor is here. And also to buy his book, I encourage you to go into the description.
Go ahead. I see somebody in the chat said, yeah, he's talking about being a hard money lender with the house flipping thing. Yeah, that is a term that is in the industry. I kind of prefer private lender, but that is a term, a hard, and I think they call it that because the interest rates and whatnot can be quite high. But that is it. See, like, all the flip the house shows, Oshay, and everything. Mm-hmm. When they would show the people buying the property initially, and maybe it costs like $100 grand or something like that.
Okay.
The people who are doing the flips, if they didn't have the money themselves, they don't get that flip money from the bank. The bank is not going to loan you money on a house flip. So if you don't got the money to do it yourself, you got to go and get it in the private market, right? And that's where somebody like myself might come in, who could maybe put like 50 grand on it or something like that. Now, these are short-term loans, right? You're just loaning this person the money for the length of time they need to renovate and sell the house. So it's typically only maybe like a year loan, and you're counting on it coming in earlier than that. You know what I mean? And you might charge that person. There's all different ways to do it. You can negotiate and say, look, if you sell this thing and the profit is 25,000, you got to give me half of it. You could do it that way.
Okay.
Or a more common thing is to say, look, I'm just going to charge you 16 or 17% interest on this money for the year that you got it, and you got to pay me a monthly interest payment, And whenever you sell the house, you know, you pay me off my principal, but in the meantime, I'm collecting that 17% interest. So it's high interest. So the person has to make a nice profit margin on the flip so that they can afford to pay that high interest money, you know?
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Now,
Yeah.
let me also shout out to JC Lazy One for the fire at PayPal. That nigga Pookie Jenkins, that was what his PayPal name is. $25. Shout out to Ricardo. Dan, that was two payments. Shout out to you, brother. For $20 and the $11 super PayPal. Anybody? I mean, obviously, for the questions, you guys know how it works. And I don't know how much longer you have. About what, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, Doc?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so guys, if you have a question, you know what to do. We're here with the good doctor. Get the likes up real quick, and let's say if you guys want to ask those questions. I think one guy said, now typically, guys, you know how we do a super chat, but I'll do this, DJ Cal. Like, how do you ensure you recoup the funds? Is the question he has.
Well, when it comes to, say, for instance, doing like a hard money loan, you would actually be, for instance, on the actual mortgage of the house. Okay. You are not the house flipper. So if something goes wrong, he decides to skip town or, you know, whatever, you actually have the right to take that house back. So that's how you secure yourself on a hard money loan. Now, on something like a real estate fund, you know, that is more difficult. It's essentially an unsecured thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you don't have a tangible asset to grab onto. So now, yeah, you're depending on, you know, your due diligence, your the reputation of the fund people, their past performance, that kind of thing. But you don't have a hard and fast thing to grab. And therefore, that's why I think, you know, you ought to limit how much you put into something like that, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, brothers, you know how to do this, right? This is a show. So super chat your questions. I'll ask one more question that's not super chatted, but y'all know how we do. So, brother says, please explain why a person would do a fluctuating mortgage and the benefits of it.
A fluctuating mortgage. I guess they mean what do you call that? Not a fixed rate, but I guess a variable rate mortgage kind of deal. Well, okay. That could make sense. Now, what generally winds up happening is, you know, they call them teaser rates, right? Where like a bank might give you a very favorable loan interest rate for maybe the first 3 or 4 years of the loan. And then they say something like, it's going to reset, you know, to whatever the prime interest rate is, which is set by the Federal Reserve down the road. Now, if you happen to know that you're either going to sell that house or refinance that house or basically exit it yourself before your loan resets, it could be a good thing. But, you know, if you're not ready for your interest rate to jump on those adjustable rates, and all of a sudden you got maybe a $700 payment and it goes to $1,200, yeah. That's where a lot of people got caught, man.
Yeah, lost in the house like that.
You got to be mindful of it. I do know some savvy real estate people who take advantage of adjustable rate mortgages when they know that they have the wherewithal to exit out of it before the interest rate's going to reset. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So just do me a favor and get the likes up because you know, it's 2:56 a.m. I done did a double header up in this thing, player. So let me see here. So that there's any other questions. So I guess, you know, I know you're a busy person. You know, I guess when will we be able to ever see you again to come back over here and bless us, player?
Hey man, we'll set something up. You know, next week. You know, if certain topics, if people want to do in particular, you know, we can do that too. So absolutely.
Yeah. Email me, and this time, like I said, I'll make sure we schedule ahead of time. But we still got 185 people watching right now.
Appreciate that, man.
Financial show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is only a page. This is my second backup channel. So thank you guys for supporting. You know, thank you brothers for, you know, coming by and appreciate all of you for allowing this platform so people who are professionals, they can come in and speak to us as brothers, because we want to open the doors for all of our talented brothers. Oh, Randy Sargent, do you offer consultations?
Well, yeah, I do, and I don't, I don't charge or anything like that. As long, so because I don't charge, I just asked that it be kind of really focused and everything. I get a lot of folks that ask, pretty general stuff. But if you got something specific that you think I could maybe help with, for sure, I've helped out a lot of people like that.
Okay.
Can you get on Yvette Carnell's channel? That's hilarious. I she's an interesting YouTuber. I do watch her.
Yeah. She be having it cracking. Good show, Doctor. He the doctor for right now. I still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, you better, we want you in that study hall in the morning, man.
65 weeks of rotations left to actually have that, man. And this is hard, man. Like, I can't even see how y'all did it. So anyway, I'm just trying to get in the family, man. I ain't trying to do no oncology and that. So, but yeah, I will tell you like this. I would never do this. I mean, just, about medical school. Was that the roughest time in your life when you were studying for medicine? Was that like a brutal time for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal. I mean, because I went to a hardcore medical school where everybody was constantly studying, so you felt like guilty if you wasn't, man. I mean, it was crazy. So it wasn't it wasn't enjoyable on that front. It wasn't a very balanced life, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
But in retrospect, it's paid off, and that it's afforded me the extra money to do some of this investing thing. And I never would have wrote a book. I never would have, so it all paid back down the road, man. But yeah, it's no joke.
What about residency? Was that also like, was your on call for like a long time? Not really. Not oncology, were you? Or?
Yeah, residency. My colleagues tease me about it because a radiation oncology residency is not difficult in the traditional sense, in that there's none of that staying up overnight and having to come in the middle of the night and take care of sick people and cover the ER, that kind of thing. It's very much an outpatient specialty, nice and scheduled and all that. So it wasn't crazy like a surgery residency or something like that, man. Absolutely not. Which I'm thankful for.
Internal medicine first or no?
No, radiation oncology, you do 1 year of internal medicine and then 4 years of radiation oncology.
Okay.
Man.
All right.
So yeah, man. We came off the radiology tree as opposed to the internal medicine tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, guys, thank you so much, and thank you again, Doc. So for coming by and blessing us.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, man.
I just saw look at the salary for what radiation oncologists make. I'm like, oh, okay. Y'all keep that though, because I ain't gonna try to apply for that. I'm cool. But anyways, thank you so much.
All right.
Again, we'll see you sometime next week. And brothers, check out the book in the description on Amazon.com, Alternative Financial Medicine. And guys, thank you so much. We'll be back with another great show like this next week. I promise you. Peace out.
Okay.
Peace.